I still remember the exact morning it hit me. I was standing in my kitchen, barefoot on that cold tile floor, and I looked at my reflection in the toaster. And I didn't recognize who was looking back. Not because I looked bad, but because I looked tired, worn down, like something inside me had quietly given up without telling me first. I was 68 years old, and I thought that was just what getting old felt like. I was wrong. See, I'm 95 now, and I'm not saying that to impress you. I'm saying it because I need you to understand something before I say anything else. I have watched the world change more times than I can count. I remember when the milk guy would knock on your door before sunrise. I remember rotary phones. I remember when the whole neighborhood would spill out onto their porches after dinner and just sit together, talk, watch the fireflies come out. No phones, no notifications, just people being with people. And now I'm 95, still on my own 2 feet, still thinking clearly, still living, not just surviving. And people always want to know my secret. They look at me like I must have some magic thing, some rare gene, some kind of luck that skipped them. But it wasn't luck, not even close. I buried men who were bigger than me, stronger than me, men who looked like they could outlive a mountain when they were 55. They didn't make it to 80. I did. I made it past 80, past 85, past 90, and here I am. And the difference between them and me wasn't that I was tougher or smarter or more disciplined in some dramatic way. The difference was rhythm. It was knowing when to stop, knowing when your body is asking for something and actually listening instead of just pushing through. Let me tell you what I changed, and I mean really changed, not for a week, not after a scare, changed permanently, because I finally understood that my body wasn't the enemy. It was asking me for help every day, and I just wasn't listening. The first thing I changed was this. I stopped eating after the sun went down. I know how that sounds. Boring, simple, like some advice your grandmother's grandmother would give you. But I'm telling you, this one thing rearranged my entire life from the inside out. For most of my adult years, dinner was at 7, something sweet at 9, maybe a little snack around 10:30 while the TV was on. That was just life. That was normal. And every morning I woke up foggy, heavy, like my body hadn't actually rested, just paused. I thought it was just age catching up. I thought this is what getting older feels like. That heaviness, that slowness, that feeling like your mind is wrapped in a wet blanket when you first open your eyes. It wasn't age. It was digestion. It was my body working all night trying to process food when it was supposed to be doing something else entirely. There's a process the body runs when you stop eating. Scientists call it autophagy. A Japanese researcher won the Nobel Prize for discovering it. What it means in plain English is this. When food stops coming in and insulin drops, your cells start doing housekeeping. They find the broken, damaged, worn-out parts of themselves and either repair them or they throw them out. It's like a cleaning crew that can only work when the building is empty. The second you eat, you kick the cleaning crew out. They stop working. They wait. So all those years of eating late at night, I was never letting the cleaning crew work. My cells were just piling up damage, slowly, quietly, the way a house falls apart when nobody does maintenance for 20 years. You don't notice it day to day, but then one morning you look up and the ceiling is sagging and the pipes are leaking, and you wonder how it got this bad this fast. When I started finishing dinner by 6 in the evening, everything shifted. 3 weeks. My belly, which I had carried for 15 years, like it just lived there, started shrinking. The stiffness in my joints that I had accepted as permanent, it eased. My sleep got deeper, real deep sleep, not just lying there in the dark. And in the morning, I woke up with something I hadn't felt in years. Clarity, actual mental clarity, like someone had cleaned a windshield. At 80 years old, I felt lighter than I had at 65. Inflammation went down. My doctor, who'd been watching my numbers for a decade, actually lowered one of my prescriptions. My energy stopped being this unpredictable thing that would spike and crash and disappear. It became steady, reliable, like a river instead of a faucet. I wasn't starving myself. I wasn't suffering. I was just closing the kitchen earlier. That's all, and it gave me years back. I genuinely believe that. Your body cannot repair what it is constantly being asked to digest. You have to close the kitchen. Let the crew work overnight. That one change alone, I would trade almost anything to have known it at 40. The second thing I changed was this. Before anything else on my plate, I ate greens first. I hear you. You're thinking this old man is about to tell me to eat my salad. And yes, that is exactly what I am telling you. But let me explain why in a way that might actually stick. When you eat fiber before carbohydrates, before bread, before potatoes, before anything starchy or sugary, it slows how fast your stomach empties. It slows the absorption of glucose into your blood, and that means the spike in your blood sugar after a meal is smaller, gentler, like a small wave instead of a crash. Now, why does that matter? Because high blood sugar spikes are destructive. They damage the walls of your blood vessels. They inflame your joints. They age your organs from the inside in a process scientists call glycation. That's when excess sugar in the bloodstream attaches itself to proteins and basically ruins them, stiffens them, makes them less functional. That is what aging looks like at the cellular level. It is not inevitable. It is not just time passing. It is sugar doing damage that could have been slowed down. I started eating salad at 72. Spinach, arugula, romaine, a little olive oil, nothing complicated. And within a few months, I noticed something I hadn't expected. My afternoon crash disappeared. Gone. I used to fall asleep in my recliner around 2 in the afternoon like clockwork. I thought that was just what old men did. Turns out that was what a blood sugar crash feels like. Your body shoots up after a meal and then drops fast, and you feel it like a wave of exhaustion pulling you under. When greens came first, the whole curve changed. No spike, no crash, just steady. My triglycerides dropped, my blood pressure stabilized, but more than the numbers, I felt something in my daily life, a kind of calm, physical stability I hadn't had in years. Food stopped being something that controlled how I felt for the next 3 hours. I was in charge again. Greens first, every single meal, always. Most people hear these things and think they're too small to bother with. But that's the thing about small disciplines. They don't stay small. They compound. They build on each other over months and years and decades until you look up and realize you are not the same person you were in the best way possible. Now here's the part that really turned things around for me. The third change I made was how I started my mornings. For most of my life, breakfast was a big production. Eggs, toast, butter, maybe some meat, sometimes a sweet roll if I felt like treating myself. And by mid-morning, I felt sluggish, heavy, like my engine was running, but the oil was thick and cold. I thought that was just what mornings felt like at my age. Then one morning, when I was 74, I just didn't have the energy to cook. So I grabbed some fruit, a bowl of blueberries, an apple, some orange slices, and that was it. And I sat down, expecting to feel hungry and unsatisfied within an hour. Instead, I felt clean, light, sharp, and I did not crash. Here's what happens when you first wake up. Your body has been working all night. Your liver has been filtering. Your cells have been repairing. Your immune system has been doing its rounds. Your body at dawn is in the middle of a natural cleanup process. And the first thing you eat either supports that process or interrupts it. Fruit is mostly water. It's loaded with vitamin C. It's full of things called polyphenols and antioxidants. Antioxidants matter because of something called oxidative stress. Think of oxidative stress like rust forming inside your body.
Free radicals, which are just unstable molecules created by normal metabolism and by pollution and stress and 100 other things, these free radicals damage cell membranes, they damage DNA, they accelerate the entire aging process from the inside. Antioxidants are what neutralize those free radicals. They're the body's rust prevention system. When I started having fruit first thing in the morning, my digestion improved within weeks. My bowel movements became regular in a way they had not been in years. My skin, which I had stopped paying attention to, started looking clearer, my cravings throughout the day reduced, and my energy in the morning became something I actually noticed. Real energy, not coffee energy, not pushed-through-it energy, natural, calm, ready energy.
At 80 years old, I had more morning energy than I had at 60, not because I added some complicated supplement, because I stopped loading my body down the second it woke up. I gave it something easy to work with, something that said, we are taking care of you today, not testing you. Start light. Let your organs come online slowly. Your body will thank you in ways you can feel by noon. The fourth change I made was the one most people my age never think about. I started rebuilding my gut. At 78, something shifted in me. Not dramatic, not a crisis, but noticeable. I was bloated more often than not. I had gas that embarrassed me. My mood, which I had always kept fairly steady, started dipping unexpectedly. And I felt a kind of fatigue that was different from being tired after a long day. It was deeper, like the tiredness was coming from inside, somewhere I couldn't quite locate. My doctor said something that I have not forgotten since. He said your gut microbiome is changing as you age, and he explained something that rearranged how I thought about my own body. Inside your gut right now, there are trillions of bacteria, trillions, and they are not neutral passengers. The good ones produce compounds that fight inflammation. They communicate directly with your immune system. They help regulate your mood by producing serotonin, which is the chemical most people associate with feeling okay. The bad ones do the opposite. They produce inflammatory signals. They weaken the gut lining. And as we get older, the diversity of that community decreases. The good ones start losing ground. And when that balance tips, inflammation rises throughout your entire body. Now, inflammation is not just a word. Inflammation is the underlying current beneath almost every chronic disease tied to aging. Heart disease, joint deterioration, memory decline, even depression. Scientists have a name for the connection between your gut and your brain. They call it the gut-brain axis. Your gut sends chemical signals up to your brain through the vagus nerve and through the bloodstream. If your gut is inflamed, your brain knows it. You feel it as brain fog, as unexplained sadness, as a kind of heaviness that you cannot explain away with logic. I started taking a daily probiotic, nothing expensive, nothing complicated, just consistent, every single day. And within weeks, things started shifting. The bloating quieted down, my digestion normalized, my mood became more stable, and something that surprised me more than anything, my thinking got sharper. At 90 years old, I was recalling names better than I had at 75, faster, clearer. My doctor mentioned that my immune response seemed to be holding up better than expected for someone my age. Fix the soil, and the tree grows stronger. Neglect the soil, and nothing above ground ever truly thrives. Your gut is not a side issue. It is the command central for how well every other system in your body performs. Now, I want you to stay with me here, because what comes next, this is the part where it stops being about food and starts being about who you are and whether you plan to keep being that person. I have seen what happens when someone decides they are done. Not consciously, not all at once, but gradually, quietly, one recliner at a time. One of my closest friends, when he was 69, retired from 40 years of work and decided he was finished moving. He said he had earned it. He said he was done. He bought a beautiful recliner, and he sat in it from morning to night. And within 5 years, his shoulders had rounded forward like a question mark. His balance was gone. He needed help getting up. He was alive, but his quality of life had collapsed. He was dependent on other people for things he used to do without a thought. That scared me in a way I still remember physically, like a cold hand on the back of my neck. So I made a rule, a non-negotiable one. No 0 movement days, not one. Every single day I walk. Some days it's 15 minutes, some days it's 30. Slow, steady, intentional. Not a marathon, not something impressive. Just movement. Just my body reminding itself that it is still capable. And here's what science says about that. Walking improves circulation. It strengthens the heart. It reduces systemic inflammation. It supports brain health in ways that researchers are still discovering. It preserves muscle mass. But beyond what the research says, there is something else, something that the numbers don't quite capture. When you can move under your own power, you feel capable. And that feeling, that sense of being capable, it protects your spirit. It protects your dignity. There is a kind of confidence that comes from walking out your front door on your own 2 feet that no medication can replicate. Your self-worth is tied to your independence in ways you might not realize until you start losing it. As we get older, we naturally lose muscle mass in a process called sarcopenia. That's the technical term for the muscle loss that happens with age if you don't work against it. And it's not just about how you look. Muscle loss affects your balance. It affects how your body manages blood sugar. It affects your metabolism, your energy, your ability to recover from illness. If you stop challenging your muscles, they start to disappear. If you stop challenging your balance, you fall. If you stop challenging your heart, it weakens. Movement is the signal your body needs to keep maintaining itself. Movement tells every system inside you, we are still needed here. Keep the infrastructure up. I am 95 years old. I do not walk fast, but I walk upright. I walk without assistance. I walk out to check the mail and back without anyone's help. And that is not accidental. That is 40 decades of never allowing myself a 0 day. You don't stop walking because you get old. You get old because you stop walking. I have watched that truth play out in real time across dozens of lives. It is not a metaphor. And then there is sleep. This is the one I was the worst at for most of my life, and I suspect many of you were bad at it too. For years, I treated sleep like something I could borrow against. 5 hours one night, 6 the next, maybe 8 on a weekend to catch up. I watched late television with a plate of something sweet in my lap. I wore exhaustion like a sign of how hard I worked. I thought being tired meant you were productive. It doesn't. It means you were slowly dismantling yourself. Because sleep is not rest. That's the thing people fundamentally misunderstand. Sleep is repair. There is a system in your brain that researchers discovered not long ago called the glymphatic system. During deep sleep, this system activates and it flushes waste proteins out of your brain, including proteins that, when they accumulate, are linked to memory decline and cognitive aging. No deep sleep means no cleanup. The waste builds up night after night, year after year, until thinking becomes harder, until you reach for a word and it just isn't there anymore. Sleep also rebalances hormones. It regulates blood sugar. It controls appetite in ways that affect every choice you make the next day. It reduces inflammation throughout the body. It strengthens immune function. There's almost no system in the body that sleep doesn't touch. When I finally restructured my nights, everything changed. I stopped eating after sunset. I turned off bright screens well before bed. I dimmed the lights in the house by 7. I kept the room cool and dark. Same bedtime every single night, no exceptions. 7 to 8 hours, protected, non-negotiable. Within a few months, my blood pressure improved. My thinking sharpened noticeably. My mood stabilized in a way that felt different from before. Calmer, more patient, more optimistic. And that optimism, I want to say something about that. Sleep restores hope. It genuinely does. When you're chronically sleep-deprived, the nervous system stays in a low-level state of threat. Everything feels heavier. Problems feel larger than they are. Pain feels sharper. Other people feel more irritating. The world feels like it's pressing down on you.
Sleep resets the nervous system every single night if you let it. It is one of the most powerful anti-aging tools that exists, and it costs you nothing except discipline. So here's what I'm going to say to you now, and I want you to actually sit with this. I am 95. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not selling you anything. I'm just an old man who's still here, still thinking, still walking out his front door on his own 2 feet, and who had a very long time to watch what works and what doesn't, what helps people live fully and what quietly hollows them out from the inside. I have seen what happens when someone decides they're done, not consciously, not all at once, but gradually, quietly, one recliner at a time. One of my closest friends, when he was 69, retired from 40 years of work and decided he was finished moving. He said he had earned it. He said he was done. He bought a beautiful recliner and he sat in it from morning to night. And within 5 years, his shoulders had rounded forward like a question mark. His balance was gone. He needed help getting up. He was alive, but his quality of life had collapsed. He was dependent on other people for things he used to do without a thought. That scared me in a way I still remember physically, like a cold hand on the back of my neck. So I made a rule, a non-negotiable one. No Vero movement days, not one. Every single day I walk. Some days it's 15 minutes, some days it's 30. Slow, steady, intentional. Not a marathon, not something impressive. Just movement. Just my body reminding itself that it is still capable. And here's what science says